He plans to give billionaires massive tax cuts and to cut corporate taxes by over $1 trillion, even as they pull in record profits. His plans will add more than $5 trillion to the national debt. He also wants to impose what in effect is a national sales tax. And that is on top of the $2 trillion tax cut. We know how to count. We know how to count.
Harris talking about counting up how this all works and balancing what is a populist message with some outreach to certain businesses, at least small businesses. It turns out, according to early analyses, and again, she's only been the nominee for a little while here, her plans could actually be better for U.S. economic growth than Donald Trump's tariff plans. That's according to the Wall Street firm Goldman Sachs. You see the headline. And that kind of cosign is interesting because Harris famously took on Wall Street as the AG of California. She fought bankers to secure a historic $18 billion settlement for the people harmed by the banks in the mortgage industry. And I can tell you, back before she was headlining this Democratic convention, Kamala Harris was explaining her work and how to take on those banks and use the law and fair rules, she said, to help people at a different convention. We have a deep cut all the way back to the Democratic convention of 2012.
Well, I've seen all that happens when you roll back those rules. What happens are rows of foreclosure signs. What happens are mountains of family debt. What happens is a middle class that's hurting. That's what we've seen in towns across California and across this country. When it comes to the housing crisis.
That's when it comes to the housing crisis. The Harris campaign argues that not only what's old is new again, but that the record, she's one of the more experienced nominees we've seen in a first bid for the White House. The record shows she's serious about this. Now, Donald Trump is not out campaigning. He will be seen today taping a town hall with Sean Hannity. That airs tonight. Against this backdrop, you have to look at how it's all playing. I've emphasized to you it's early in a race that seems late into the general election because of the nominee swap. But we're starting to see data and evidence beyond just the fundraising about what's happening. 1 million new voters now registering, with over 376,000 since Biden left the race. And because the way we vote has changed in America and shows no signs of changing back, we talk about an election day. That's a placeholder from a bygone era. We actually have election weeks in many states. And Trump allies are openly asking if Republicans have not fully adjusted to that, in addition to how Donald Trump has discouraged some of the basic ways that it is legal to vote, like voting early by mail. So you have allies and Fox asking if Republicans are blowing the key early vote mobilization, which begins within 2 weeks.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see how successful Republicans have been about getting out the early vote. They're not going to be able to cry wolf twice on this. They've had 4 years to figure this out.
They've had years to figure it out. So how does this actually work on the ground in the key states that matter? And what about all this talk of the economy, something that Harris is clearly driving? And I wonder, is there someone with experience on the ground in tough national political races who also knows a thing or two about the economy and how to politic on it? Who could that be? I'm thinking of James Carville, the perfect guest for exactly today's news cycle when we're back in 90 seconds.
Gusto is the #1 choice for small business payroll. It's fast. It's trusted. It's a great value. And Gusto does a lot more than payroll to make running your business easier. Like payroll taxes and compliance, time tracking and contractor payments. And when you're ready, benefits, HR, and more. Put your business on the #1 payroll platform. Get started for free at gusto.com.
This is ludicrous.
Ludicrous. All right, who called for ludicrous?
Sorry,
we went, this is ludicrous.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't tell ludicrous what's ludicrous. Ludicrous tells you what's ludicrous.
Okay.
Oh, that is ludicrous. You don't need me for this. Hang on. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Good thing you have State Farm. Just file a claim on the app or call us.
Guess I can go.
Don't you mean roll out?
No, I don't.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Go beyond the headlines with the MSNBC app. Read, listen, and watch live breaking news and analysis anytime, anywhere. Go beyond the what to understand the why. Download the MSNBC app now.
Someone who suggests we should terminate the Constitution of the United States of America should never again stand behind the seal of the President of the United States.
Democratic nominee Kamala Harris spitting what is technically known as hot fire. James Carville, the legendary Democratic strategist, is my special guest, lead off on a big night, and his most recent piece in the New York Times lays out Harris's best strategies to defeat Trump at next week's debate. Welcome, James.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Dealer's choice. You want to start with the debate or the economy?
The economy.
Go ahead.
So since 1989, in job creation, it's 50 million under Democrats, 1 million under Republicans. I defy somebody to compare the growth rate since 1989 among Democratic and Republican presidents. You would find a gigantic advantage for Democrats. I have no idea why the press or the financial people just don't look at the historical record and tell us what it is. 50 to 1. That's a big number. If you get beat 50 to 1, you're getting beat bad, really bad. And that's the jobs number that President Clinton pointed out at the convention. And if they fact checked it and said, well, you know what? He's exactly right. 50 million to 1 million. So you want a strong economy? Vote Democratic.
You know, Kamala Harris has been known as someone who is a realist, a pragmatist, who can sit across the table with people and make a plan and a deal. But she's also known as tough on the banks and not a pushover. I've covered that history on this program. And so it's interesting in that context that she is out here not waiting around for the debate or waiting around for a new theme or only running on the quote-unquote freedom theme, which is important. They're pushing his economic plans, including trying to help small businesses. And over on Fox Business, which is not exactly Harris Central, James, they had some commentators who said, well, they had to admit or they like this for business. Take a look.
I just want to press the point. When a political candidate comes up with what I think is a good idea, I have to call it a good idea. And a $50,000 tax cut for small, not tax cut, but a tax credit for startups or small businesses, coupled with less red tape. I got to say, that is a good idea, regardless of our other tax ideas.
While that may be a good idea.
The final maybe there is from the RNC chair. Your thoughts?
Well, it's a different philosophy. She's saying if we do small businesses, we grow these small businesses, then you're going to grow the entire economy. The Trump plan is if we just give billionaires more tax cuts, the money will get to us eventually. And I don't know about you, but I deal with small businesses multiple times a day. I deal with billionaires 3 times a year. So I come into contact with a lot more small businesses and a lot more involved in my life and employ a lot more people. And I think it's a distinction that's worth noting, and it's a distinction that look at the record, 50 to 1. It's big. And we know that this works, that if you invest in small business, you invest in education, students, that kind of thing, you're gonna have an economy that perks up, not trickles down.
Turning to the debate, you've been around many of these presidential debates. This one is particularly high stakes. These two people have never debated, let alone even met. We expect high numbers. The floor in the summer, when fewer people were paying attention with Biden, was about 50 million. We expect a lot more than that next week. We can report tonight the campaigns have agreed on the muted mic system, which is what they used in that summer debate. You have been thinking about this. What do you think is key for Harris?
Well, first of all, people know Trump much better than Harris. So Harris it's got a lot of introducing left to do, and that's very important for her. The second thing is you're exactly right. America loves a train wreck. They saw a train wreck on June 27th. They're going to tune back in, hoping that they see another train wreck, because people love train wrecks. And I think this is sometimes we overhype debates. We overhype the importance of debates. I think in this one, it might be a little bit worth the hype here. We'll see how it turns out. And he kind of needs this. And she needs it, too, because she needs a platform to really introduce herself to the voters of America. People know about her, but don't quite know her yet.
Yeah, I take your point. I mean, I remind folks the 2020 Biden-Trump debate had over 70 million live views, and it further cemented, amidst COVID, the idea of getting Trump out, not for even all the reasons that legitimately people have criticized him for, racism, sexism, attacks on the law and rule and order. But it really cemented the idea that he was out of touch and not up to the job on COVID. You just referenced the so-called train wreck, which really that debate more than anything else upended this year. We all understand that. So it's big next week. Harris has continued to improve over the years as a campaigner. I think even Republicans have acknowledged that in their own way. But even back last cycle, she had a strong run against the Trump agenda in Pence. Take a look.
We don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement, improving public safety, and supporting our African-American neighbors and all of our minorities.
I will not sit here and be lectured by the Vice President on what it means to enforce the laws of our country. I am the only one on this stage who has personally prosecuted everything from child sexual assault to homicide.
In your piece, you write about what she should do. How does that moment stand out? And how much of it is about her reminding people who she is, as you say, just literally far less famous and known than Donald Trump?
Well, it's very effective, but remember, crime is down 30%. The Biden-Harris administration has a stellar record on fighting crime. A big part of her resume that I would like for her to talk about is a time as Attorney General of the largest state and how she intervened on behalf of consumers. I think when people find that out, that she has a pro-consumer attitude and is against this price fixing and far capping insulin costs, and then she can show how she fought against corporate power and corporate pricing power, it's going to go a lot better, I promise you.
Yeah. And James, I appreciate it. Looks like you're getting other calls, but you're staying in the live TV interview instead of taking the other call. I appreciate that. We all know you could take the other call.
Whoever's calling me, stop. Don't call me between 6 and 6:30.
I wanted to get your take on, look, there's a lot of political talk out there, but, you know, Politico has real reporting. This isn't just sort of speculation about Republicans who say they've had it. It's a tight race, and if Trump actually lost, they could rebuild instead of being stuck with him. Quote, Republicans wishing for a Trump loss include long-standing GOP figures throughout the nation who bleed red and wouldn't dare say this publicly, but who are more than ready to move on from the Trump era. What does that mean? Does it affect anything in the campaign, or is it the usual D.C., talk?
A little bit more. Eric Erickson, who's very, very conservative, lives in Macon, is actually from Jackson, Louisiana, right north of Baton Rouge. And he says that they might benefit from a blowout. And remember, the Republicans got blown out in 64 and won the presidency in 68. Democrats got blown out in 72, won the presidency in 76. So what I tell my Republican friends, if you want your party back, if you want a kind of pro-business, lower tax, lighter regulatory cuts, stand erected attention during the anthem, the only way you're going to get that back is through a blowout. If Harris gets 280 electoral votes, it's not going to change. And I think there's a growing recognition of that, not just from kind of elite Washington never-Trumpers, but there's getting to be a sense of that on the ground also.
Yeah, super interesting, and you pull the history, and it goes to that. But some of it's generational. The people who are middle and younger in the Republican Party understand that there will be other chapters and decades, and when do they want to begin that process, as you say. James, like I said, star guest for tonight, and thank you for staying on the line. Long-time listener.
Thank you.
Thank you.
50 to 1. 50 to 1. Thank you.
There you go. James Carville giving us the brief.